right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Chapter 5 Study Guide walkthrough. This is Miss Mitchell, and we're going to be going over this entire study guide today to prepare you for your Chapter 5 test so that once you're done with that, you know you did great on it, you made a good grade, and you can enjoy your Thanksgiving break. But before we get to Thanksgiving, we got to make sure we know how to do the work from Chapter 5. So that's what we're going to go over today. I recommend you have your physical study guide with you as you're watching this. Go through it, pause it as you need to, make sure all of your answers are correct, make sure you know how to work out the problems, and if you don't, watch it again. If you don't, watch it again until you finally start to understand how to work the problems. So this video is here to help you along with any of your teachers, so always reach out with any questions. I think that's all of the spill that I have to say, so we can go ahead and get started. Number 1 says, without graphing, determine if the following systems of equations has one, none, or infinitely many solutions. So what it means by without graphing is we don't have to actually solve these to figure out what it's going to look like. We can look at the slope, we can look at the y-intercept, and we can decide. But before we can do that, we do need to set them equal to y. So step 1 is set equal to y. Right? And that's going to apply to all of these. So that's why I want to make sure you know that. So we've got 3x minus 6y equals negative 12. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. Right? To solve for y, we need to move 3x to the other side. This is a positive 3x, so we're going to subtract it. So we've got negative 6y equals negative 3x minus 12. And we want this y alone, so we're going to divide by negative 6. And we get y equals negative 3 divided by negative 6 is going to be positive 3 over 6, which reduces to 1/2, so 1/2 x. And then negative 12 divided by negative 6 is going to give us positive 2. So we notice our answers are exactly the same. So that means we've got the same line, right? Literally like the same lines overlapping. So this is going to be infinitely many solutions. All right. B, we need to set these equal to y as well. So we've got 4x minus 3y equals 5. We're going to subtract 4x, so we've got negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 5. Then divide by negative 3. So we get y equals negative 4 divided by negative 3 is going to stay that way, except it's going to become positive because it's a negative divided by negative. And then 5 divided by negative 3 is going to become negative 5/3. So that's our first answer. But we also need to turn this one equal to y. So I'm going to skip a step and go ahead and subtract this 4x to the other side. So we've got 3y equals negative 4x plus 9, right? All we did was subtract that 4x. And now we're going to divide by 3. So y equals negative 4/3 x. 9 divided by 3 is positive 3. So we've got negative 4/3 x and negative 5 over 3. And then we have negative 4/3 x plus 3. So our y-intercepts are different, but our slopes are the same, but notice one is negative and one is positive, right? So that tells us we're going to have one solution. They're going to cross, just like if we've got one negative going this way and we've got one positive going this way, they're going to meet and they're going to intersect at one point. All right, see, we've already got one set to y. We need to set the other one to y. So we're going to start once again by moving our x. So this is negative 4x, so we're going to add 4x to the other side. So we have 12y equals 4x plus 24. And then we're going to divide by 12. And we get y equals 4 divided by 12 can reduce to 1/3. So we have 1/3 x. And then 24 divided by 12 is 2. So our first problem was 1/3 x plus 3. This one is 1/3 x plus 2. So notice that our slopes are not positive and negative. They are the same slope, meaning, say this is our y-intercept, and we've got one crossing at 3. It's going to cross somewhere like that. And then this one has the same slope, and it's crossing at 2, which means it's going to cross right below it. So these are parallel lines, meaning they never intersect. So this is going to be no solution. All right, number 2 can kind of be answered similarly to the problems that we just worked. So it says for each case to describe the graph and determine the number of solutions for the system. So A says equations in the system have different slopes. So different slopes are going to be our intersecting lines, just like we had in B. So we've got intersecting lines. That's all it's asking here. Not to actually graph anything, but what it's going to look like. And when we have intersecting lines, we have one solution. Okay. B says equations in the system have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. All right, well, that is the same thing as what happened in C. We've got the same slope, but different y-intercepts. So those are going to be parallel lines, just like we talked about before. And the number of solutions when you have parallel lines are 0. All right, now equations in the system have the same slope and the same y-intercepts. So we've got same slope, same y-intercept. That's what we looked like at A. So these are coinciding lines, meaning they're the same lines. Right, and when we have lines that look like that, where every line is touching, every point is touching, they're the same, so it's infinitely many solutions. We could pick any point off of either line and it would work because they are the same line. Okay. All right, so number 3 says to identify the best method for solving the system. This does not mean that we need to solve these. It just wants the method for these, right? So let's look at A. So on A, notice both of these are equal to x, right? Not equal to y, but set equal to x. So when they're set equal to x, that tells me that they both equal x, so they both equal each other. So the best way to solve this would be to use the equal values method. All right. B, we've got one in standard form and one in slope-intercept form set equal to y. So that tells me I could take this y and plug it in easily here. So we're going to use substitution. All right, on C, we do have these set equal to y, which is easier to graph. But notice we've got 750 and 215. Those numbers are just way too big to graph, so we're going to use equal values because they're both set equal to y. All right, and then on D, we've got them set equal to y once again. And notice these are very good, very small numbers, so this time we are going to plug those in the calculator and get the answer by graphing. All right, number 4 says to solve using the method of your choice and to write your answer as an ordered pair. All right, well, I'm going to look at the system that they gave us and determine what I think the best method would be. So here I've got one set equal to y and one set in standard form, so I'm going to use substitution. Meaning I'm going to take this y equals 5x plus 3 and plug it in for y. Right? So I'm going to have negative 3x plus 3 times 5x plus 3 equals 3. So I get negative 3x and distribute this 3. So I'm going to have plus 15x, and then 3 times 3 is plus 9 equals 3. Right? I'm going to combine this negative 3x and this 15x to get 12x. Then I want to subtract 9 to move 9 to the other side. So 3 minus 9 is going to give me negative 6. and then I'm going to divide by 12 to get x alone. So x equals negative 6 divided by 12 is going to stay negative because it's a negative divided by a positive, and it can't be completely divided, but it can be reduced to negative 1/2. All right, so now that I've got my value for x, I can plug that in and solve for y. So now I've got y equals 5 times negative 1/2 plus 3. Then I get y equals 5 times negative 1/2 plus 3 is going to give us 1/2, right? So our x is negative 1/2, our y is positive 1/2, so make sure you write your ordered pair as x comma y. So we're going to have negative 1/2 and 1/2. Try to avoid decimals. If you put 0.5, technically it is right, but you need to keep these in fraction forms as often as possible, okay? B says negative 3x minus y equals 8, and then 8x plus y equals negative 23. So the first thing that I'm going to do is set these equal to y. So we've got negative 3x minus y equals 8. We're going to move the 3x by adding it. So we've got negative y equals 3x plus 8. And then to make this y positive, we're going to divide by negative 1. So we get y equals negative 3x minus 8. When you divide by the negative, it just changes the signs of everything else. All right, so now we've got this one set to y. So let's set our second one to y. So we have 8x plus y equals negative 23. We're going to subtract 8x, so we get y equals negative 8x minus 23. Pardon the interruption for just a second.
Orange Day, second lunch, grab and go. Report to the cafeteria.
Sorry about that, guys. I am recording this during our lunch period, obviously. All right, so now that we've got both of these set to y, right, that means that they both equal y, they both equal the same thing, which means they can equal each other. So, draw this off, block this off. So, we're going to have negative 3x minus 8 equals negative 8x minus 23. And I'm going to first combine these x's, so I'm going to add 8x. So I get 5x minus 8 equals negative 23. I'm going to add 8 to the other side, which is going to get negative 23 plus 8 is going to give us 15. Then we divide by 5. 15 divided by 5 is going to be x equals 3. All right, so now that we know x, we can plug in for y. So let's plug it into this one. I think this is going to be easier. So we've got y equals negative 3 times 3 minus 8. Negative 3 times 3 is going to give us 9 minus 8. So y equals 1. So remember, our ordered pair is x, y, so we're going to have 3, 1. Double checking myself here. 5x minus 8 equals negative 23. 5x, negative 23 minus 8 plus 8. So this is actually supposed to be negative, guys. I'm sorry, I just noticed that. So when you move this 8 to the other side, your negative number is bigger, so it's going to stay negative. So negative 3 and 1. All right, so now we're on number 5, and it says for the system. So it gave us a system, and it said without solving, determine whether ordered pair 3, 6 or negative 3, 2 is the solution to the system. So what it's saying when it says without solving, all it means is we're not going to solve for these two. So what we can do is just plug these in for x and y, right? We know that these are x, y, and x, y. That's a y. It doesn't look like it. So let's figure out if they're a solution to the system. So let's plug in for x and y. So starting with 3, 6, so we have 4 times 3 plus 3 times 6 equals negative 6. So we've got 12 plus 18 equals negative 6. So obviously this does not work. We can go ahead and mark 3, 6 out. Because if it doesn't work for one, we don't care. It won't work for both. So now let's try it with negative 3. So we have 4 times negative 3 plus 3 times 2 equals negative 6. So we've got negative 12 plus 18 equals negative 6. 18 minus 12 is going to give us negative 6. So we have negative 6 equals negative 6. So it works for this one. Let's make sure it works for this one. So we have 2 times negative 3 minus 3 times 2 equals negative 12. So we've got negative 6, and then negative 3 times 2 is going to give us negative 6 as well. Negative 6 and negative 6 is negative 12 equals negative 12. Once again, that one works. So a solution to the system here is negative 3, 2. All right, it says to find the slope of equation 1. So remember that we're ordering it this way. So 1, we're just going to solve it for y to find the slope. Remember, we can set it into slope-intercept form from standard form by solving for y, and then it will tell us the slope of the equation. So we're going to subtract 2x. So we have negative 3y equals negative 2x minus 12. And then we're going to divide by negative 3. So y equals negative 2 divided by negative 3 becomes positive 2/3 x. And then negative 12 divided by negative 3 is going to give us positive 4. So our slope is the mx, right? So our slope is 2/3. All right, then it tells us to find the slope of equation 2. So let's do the same thing. We've got 4x plus 3y equals negative 6. We're going to subtract 4x. So we have 3y equals negative 4x minus 6. And we're going to divide by negative 3. Not negative 3, I'm sorry, just 3. So y equals negative 4 divided by positive 3 is going to stay negative 4/3. And then negative 6 divided by 3 is going to give us negative 2. So our slope here, negative 4/3. All right. It says, is negative 9, negative 2 a solution for number 2? So let's plug it in and see. So we have 4 times negative 9 plus 3 times negative 2 equals negative 6. Right, so 4 times negative 9 is going to give us negative 36. And then 3 times negative 2 is going to give us negative 6. And that's going to equal negative 6. So then negative 36 minus 6 is going to give us negative 42 equals negative 6. So this does not work, so this is not a solution. All right, and then E says, is 6 and 8 a solution for the equation number 1? So let's plug that in and see. So we have 2 times 6 minus 3 times 8 equals negative 12. So 2 times 6 is going to give us 12. Negative 3 times 8 is going to give us negative 24 equals negative 12. So 12 minus 24 does give us negative 12 equals negative 12. So this one works. So this is yes. One more announcement. I'm sorry, guys.
Blue day. Second lunch. Dine in.
All right, number 6 says to solve each equation for y and to identify the slope and y-intercept. One thing we should remember back to from the early lessons, y-intercept is an ordered pair, not just a single value, okay? Not just the b, not just the y value of the y-intercept, but an ordered pair. So to solve for this first, we need to distribute this 2 out. So we have 4y plus 6 equals 8x plus 10. And then we're going to solve for y, right? So we're going to move 6 to the other side by subtracting. So we have 10 minus 6, so 8x. And then 10 minus 6 is going to give us plus 4. Then we're going to divide by 4. So y equals 8 divided by 4 is 2x, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So that's our equation. Our m is 2, and our y-intercept is going to be 0, 1. Remember, our y-intercept always has an x value of 0. All right, b is 5x plus 10y equals 3. Once again, we're solving for y, so we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. So we have 10y equals negative 5x plus 3, and we divide by 10. So negative 5 divided by 10 cannot be divided, but can be simplified to negative 1/2. And then 3 divided by 10 also cannot be simplified or reduced, so we keep that 3 over 10. So our m is going to be negative 1/2, and our y-intercept is going to be 0, 3 over 10. Right? Number 7 says, if y equals negative 3x plus 2, what is the slope of the line? Well, we know that our slope is the m, so negative 3, and then our y-intercept is going to be 0, 2. Make sure you write these as ordered pairs. So it says to graph the equation on the grid provided. So let's start with a point that we know is on there, which is 0, 2. Right, then we can work with our slope. Notice our slope is negative, so we're going to be decreasing. So we're going to be going down and over and up and to the left. So we're going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. For the sake of the video, I'll do one more. So up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So this is a very steep graph. Okay, I shouldn't even try to draw lines on this. That's embarrassing. Let's do it this way. So there's our graph. All right, 8 says to simplify the exponential expressions. So you have 7x to the negative third squared. So that means we're multiplying 7x to the negative third by itself. All right, so the first thing that we need to do when we are multiplying exponents, remember we multiply the coefficients and we add the exponents. So we have 7 times 7 is going to give us 49. And then we have x to the negative third and x to the negative third. So we have negative 3 plus negative 3. So it's going to be negative 6. All right, but remember we don't want to leave any negatives in our answer. So we're going to change this and keep our 49 on the top and move our x to the bottom to make it positive. So 49 over x to the 6th. All right, b. We're just going to add these exponents, right? So we have x to the 5th power, x to the 2nd power means we're going to have x to the 7th. Then y to the 5th power and y to the 3rd power means we're going to have y to the 8th. And those are positive, so we're fine with that, leaving it the way it is. All right, C, we've got x to the 7th power, y to the negative 5th, over x to the negative 3rd, y to the 3rd. So this is a division problem, so we subtract. So we've got 7 minus negative 3, which is the same thing as 7 plus 3. So we've got x to the 10th power. Then we have negative 5 minus 3, right? Negative 5 minus 3 is going to stay negative. So we've got y to the 8th power, the negative 8th power, right? So x to the 10th is good, but we want to get rid of this y to the negative 8th. So we're going to keep x on top and move y to the bottom. And that is your answer. The biggest thing to remember about exponential expressions, you add when you multiply and you subtract when you divide, and you don't want to have any negatives left when you turn in your answer. All right, number 9 says to use the distributive property FOIL or a generic rectangle to simplify the following expressions. So we have x minus 6 squared, which means we've got x minus 6 times x minus 6. And I'll do this one using FOIL, and I'll do this one using a rectangle. So FOIL, we have first, outer, inner, last. So we have x times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 6 and x is negative 6x. And then negative 6 and negative 6 is positive 36. So negative 6x and negative 6x can be combined to negative 12x. And that is our answer. All right, now using the box method. So we want to put 8x plus 3 and then 5x minus 5. So we have 8x times 5x. It's going to give us 40x squared. 5x times 3 is going to give us 15x. 3 times negative 5 is going to give us negative 15. And then 8x times negative 5 is going to give us negative 40x. So now we can combine our like terms. So obviously our x squared has to go first. We want the largest amount of exponents first. All right, now we've got negative 40x and 15x. So combined, if we subtract 15 from 40, we're going to get negative 25x. And then we're left with minus 15. All right, just a few more. All right, number 10 says, you ride an express bus from the center of town to your street. You have two payment options below. After how many rides will the total cost be the same? And what is the total cost? All right, well, the biggest thing here is we're trying to figure out when they're going to be the same. So this tells me I'm going to use equal values. So we have two options below. Monthly pass of 20 or 50, so obviously this is our initial value. And then we've got cost per ride, so that's going to be our rate of change. So let's define our variables using a let statement, just meaning we're going to let x equal what and y equal what. So if we're doing this is our rate of change, this is our cost per ride, so we know that x is going to equal rides, our number of rides. And then y is going to equal our total cost, right? That's the whole reason we're doing this. We want to figure out our total cost. All right, so now it says to write a system of equations to represent the situation. So we've got option A. So that's going to y equals 4.50x plus 20. Right? And then we've got option B, which is going to be 2x plus 50. All right, so now it says to solve the system, after how many rides will the total cost be the same, and what is the total cost? So for C, we've got, we're going to set these equal to each other. So 4.50x plus 20 equals 2x plus 50. All right, so we're going to start by combining our x's together. So we're going to subtract 2x. So 450 minus 2x is going to give us 250x. Then we're going to subtract 20. So 50 minus 20 is going to give us 30. All right, then we're going to divide by 250. 30 divided by 2.5 or 250 is going to give us x equals 12. So now that we know what x equals, we can plug that back into one of our original equations and solve for y. So we have y equals 2 times 12 plus 50. So y equals 24 plus 50. So y equals 74. All right, well, we said that x was our total rides. So this is rides. And 74 was our cost because we set y equal to cost. So that means we're going to have 12 rides for $74. All right, let's keep going. Number 11. Kenny wants to buy gifts for all 18 members of his club. T-shirts cost $9 and sweatshirts cost $15. The club has $180 to spend. How much of each type can he buy? So, notice we're trying to figure out how many. So, this is where we're going to use our standard form equation. All right, so let's first figure out our x and our y variables, right? Obviously, we're trying to figure out how many of each you can buy. So what of each of those means is t-shirts and sweatshirts. So let's make x equal our number of t-shirts, and y is going to be our number of sweatshirts. All right, so it wants us to write equations. So let's break it down. So we can buy gifts. We want to buy gifts for all 18 members. So we need 18 gifts. And we want t-shirts and we want sweatshirts. So we need at least 18 combined. And then we can spend $180. So if t-shirts cost $9 and sweatshirts cost $15, we need to figure out how many fiscally we could afford, right? So our first one is just going to be to make sure we get enough gifts. So we're going to have t-shirts plus sweatshirts should equal 18 gifts, right? So x plus y equals 18. All right, and then our second is going to be how much we can spend. So if we set t-shirts to x, that's going to give us $9 per t-shirt. And then our sweatshirts are 15, that's going to give us 15y, meaning $15 per sweatshirt. So we've got 9x plus 15y equals 180. All right, now we can solve our system. So we're going to do that by taking this x plus y equals 18, and we're going to solve for y. So we're going to subtract x. So we have y equals negative x plus 18. All right, and then we're going to plug that in. So we have 9x plus 15 times negative x plus 18 equals 180. So we have 9x minus 15x. 15 times 18 is going to give us 270 equals 180. All right, let's combine these x's. So we have 9x and negative 15x is going to leave us with negative 6x. To get rid of this 270, we're going to subtract it. So 180 minus 270 is going to give us negative 90. Then we want to get x alone, so we divide by negative 6. So x equals 15. Negative 90 divided by negative 6. All right, now that we know what x equals, we can plug it back in up here and solve for y. So we have y equals, if there's a negative here, even if there's not one here, you have to include that. So negative 15 plus 18. So y is going to equal 3. So our x was t-shirts and our y was sweatshirts. So that means that we can afford to get 15 t-shirts and 3 sweatshirts. So that means we can still get 18 gifts, and we won't spend over $180. So that's what how we need to divvy it up. Number 12, a contestant on a game show must answer 60 questions. There are 5-point questions and 3-point questions. The contestant scored 220 points. Let x represent the number of 5-point questions and y represent the number of 3-point questions. So let's first figure out what this problem is telling us. So we must answer 60 questions. There are 5-point questions and there are 3-point questions, and they scored 220 points. So points and questions are different. It says let x represent the number of 5 points and let y represent the number of 3 points. So it tells us that already. So when we define our variables, it said it wants x to equal 5-point questions. Number of 5-point questions. And then we want y to equal our number of 3-point questions. All right, so now it says to write a system of equations in terms of x and y to model the situation. So we know in total we need 60 questions. So that means we're just going to add those together to get 60. All right, but now we want to talk about points. So we've got 5 and we've got 3. So if x was our 5-point, then we've got 5x. And if y was our 3-point, then we've got 3y. And that's going to equal 220. All right, so now let's solve it. It says how many 5-point questions did he answer? How many 3-point questions? So x plus y equals 60. Let's solve that for y. So we're going to subtract x. So we have y equals negative x plus 60. And then we're going to plug that in for y. So we have 5x plus 3 times negative x plus 60 equals 220. So we have 5x minus 3x. 3 times 60 is going to be 180 equals 220. So we have 5x minus 3x is going to give us 2x. And then we subtract this 180. So 220 minus 180 is going to give us 40. We want to solve for x, so we divide by 2. So x equals 20. All right, now that we know that x equals 20, we can plug it in over here. So we have y equals negative 20 plus 60. So y equals 40. So our ordered pair is 20, 40. All right, so that tells us our x was 5-point questions. So we've got 25-point questions. And our y was our 3-point questions. So we have 43 points. So 25-point questions and 43-point questions. Katie weighs 175 pounds and is gaining 2 pounds per month. James weighs 105 pounds and is gaining 3 pounds per month. When will they weigh the same amount and what will the amount be? Define your variables using a let statement. So let's figure out what it means first. So Katie weighs 175 pounds and is gaining 2 pounds per month. James weighs 105 pounds and is gaining 3 pounds per month. So we want to know when will they be the same amount. So this means, once again, equal values. Right? So let's figure out our x. Our x is going to be what? Well, if we're saying 2 pounds per month, then that would be 2x. So our x there represents months. And then we're trying to figure out how much they're going to weigh. So y is going to equal our weight. All right, it says write a system of equations. So let's write Katie's equation. So we're going to have y equals, she's gaining 2 pounds a month. That's going to be 2x. And she started off at 175 plus 175. And then James is going to be gaining 3 pounds a month. So that's 3x. And he started off at 105. So that's plus 105. So it says solve the system of equations, right? So let's do that by setting these equal to each other. So we have 2x plus 175 equals 3x plus 105. All right, so let's subtract 3x. We're going to combine our x's together first. So we have negative x plus 175 equals 105. We're going to subtract 175. So negative x. All right, so then we have 105 minus 175 is going to leave us with negative 70. And then we want to make this x positive, so we divide by negative 1. So we get x equals 70. Now we can take this x equals 70 and plug it in for our x. So we have y equals 2 times 70 plus 175. So y equals 140 plus 175. So y equals 315. So what this tells me is x was our amount of months. So in 70 months, they're going to weigh the same, and they're going to weigh 315 pounds. You know, God bless James, he really put on some weight, but the point is, in 70 months, they'll both weigh 315 pounds if they keep gaining weight the way they are. All right, our last problem is to find the domain and range. So this is kind of thinking back. Remember what the difference between open and closed circles mean. And notice there are no arrows going off the graph, so we are focusing solely on the graph, right? So our domain, hopefully we remember, is x, and our range is y. So domain, we look left to right. And for range, we look bottom to top. Right, so domain, our first x value. When you come from left to right, it's right here. So this is -2. And our last x value is right here, which is +2. So we write this the same way. We've got -2 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 2. All right, now let's look at our range. So our first y value is this point right here, which is -3, right? Because we have 1, 2, 3, so this is -3. And then our last y value is right here, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, +3. So when we write that, we've got -3 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 3. All right, guys, that's it for this Chapter 5 study guide. I hope it helps you guys, and if not, please reach out and ask any questions to your teachers that you may have. Good luck, and I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving break, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.